Flor Garcia was born in Venezuela and left her beloved home country 23 years ago. Now, Flor is a senior culture and change leader who's operated across lots of different systems. She's lived and worked in the US, Germany, and Latin America. She brings deep cross-cultural insight to everything she touches. Flor is currently the president of FIGT, Families in Global Transition, and she's also the proud mom of 3 adult TCKs, all in college. She is currently living in New York with her husband.
So, Flor, tell us a little bit about your background, please, in a couple of sentences. What's your amazing life story?
Oh, thank you, Doreen. It has been for sure a very rewarding life story. I was born in Venezuela and I left my country when I was 22 years old. So that is quite, just to say I've been living outside of my home country longer than what I lived there.
Understood.
Yes, and I had the opportunity to live in different continents, not just in the Americas, but also in Europe, in Germany specifically. Lawyer, educator, cross-cultural advisor, mother of 3 young adults, third cultural kids, and currently living in New York. So it's just, which is covered by a beautiful, white,
layer of snow.
Yes. So let's say beautiful. I don't know how I take it as a Latina tropical woman living in New York, but it's just exciting.
Yeah. The reason that this conversation was really instigated was by your posting where you said something about, am I too much? And so the topic for this, I think, is going to turn out to be something about beyond boxes. And you have been a global woman. You are from the South Americas. Yes, you're from Venezuela and you have a small accent. But when did you first realize that the world was trying to make you smaller than you felt?
Yeah, it has happened in different spaces. Doreen, I think that from the way I look and I dress and accessorize myself, all the way to the career path, and I know you and I connected through that article that I wrote and is related to nonlinear careers, but I think that I recognized that first moment when I was indirectly asked to become smaller. And that was one time. I remember I had a class and I was teaching a class in Texas in a small community college. I won't say names at the moment, but I remember someone suggesting with very good intentions that I should take an accent, get rid of your accent class. Because my accent might be distracting to the students. So that will become a learning barrier. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was the first time that I felt very conscious about the accent, and I have talked to you about the accent before.
Yes.
And it was, the shift happened, and now I see the accent as an open door for people to know more about my story. But at the beginning, it was something that I was very self-conscious about.
Yes, yes. So the reason that you wrote this, you wrote it one night, you told me, after you received your 598th application rejection. Now that demonstrates amazing amounts of stamina, amazing amounts of determination at this point. At what point did you think, well, maybe this isn't about my qualifications. Maybe this isn't about everything on paper and the forms and the HR. How did this come about?
Yeah. So the time when I wrote that article, Doreen, I remember it was Friday evening. One Friday evening, I believe 5 or 6 weeks ago. And I felt so bad. And I went to that place where you question your self-worth and what you are doing, and you start thinking that is yourself. And then what I did was like, I wanted to move away from my computer to not look more at those, rejection emails. But I said, Flor, come closer. Let's take a look. And I started looking at some of the emails, Doreen, and many of them were coming just 30 minutes after I have applied or hit the apply button.
Yes.
And then some others were written by a hiring, so hiring staff. They were all about, we have found a better cultural fit for our organization. Your resume looks wonderful and interesting, but we have found
But
something that, So at that moment, it made me think that, okay, something is happening here. There is no way that a human being is checking my resume
no.
Saturday midnight and send me an
No.
answer 15 minutes, 20 minutes later. So that's what makes me think about those applicant tracking systems that we're using
Yes.
and
Yeah.
how they discard you or they sort you out depending on certain wording
Yes.
in your resume. They usually look for clarity, and our nonlinear careers are kind of confusing. And then the hiring, staffing, the recruiters, they also look for familiarity. So I guess my CV, my resume, it didn't look quite familiar to them. It looks like uncertainty. So that at that point, but that the time or the moment when I said, oh, it's not about your worth, it's about broken systems, when I saw the amount of answers and comments
Yes.
on LinkedIn to the article that I wrote.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because you straddle cultures, languages, disciplines, you straddle ideologies, you probably have the ability to hold two or three or more competing ideas in your head at once. And and so that's really hard to communicate some of those what I call superpowers
Yes, yes,
on an application that is possibly going to be viewed even maybe by AI at this point.
I know. Yes, I think that there is, Doreen, I think that there is a gap. There is a gap between nowadays between what is said or the rhetoric and what truly happens when talent is recruited. And that will be
Yes,
like architecture, like we have what we said and then what really happens. And what I see is that, and that's somehow this part encouraged me to continue applying. When you said the stamina, yes, it requires stamina, but also a thirst for
yes,
getting engaged on this in these organizations and making, driving a change. But organizations truly, most of them truly believe that they need the kind of complexity that we offer, Doreen.
yes.
Expect
This is
women.
true.
They believe it. They talk about they want adaptability. They want someone that is able to navigate difficult situations with resilience. But that is one thing. The gap becomes evident when you go to the way they hire the talent, because talent is defined by the systems as something that is linear,
Yes,
predictable.
yeah,
So all the way from your applicant tracking systems or AI, all the way to your hiring managers, everyone is looking for predictability and familiarity. So
yes,
as an organization, we keep saying that we want the kind of talent that is agile and that is
yes,
able to navigate ambiguous situations. In reality, when we are going to hire that talent, organizations see or put themselves in the position of discarding such talent because of the systems that they have. And
yeah,
I have told you before, I have encountered several people in different HR departments and recruiting agencies that they have a very preconceived way of assessing the value of talent. And it's usually
yes, yeah.
predictability, clarity, what a
And
linear.
familiarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So your resume is really reflecting a life lived within the framework of global complexity. Do you think that when global women are applying for these positions, that they're actually being assessed by people who have not had opportunities, the drive, the interest to develop a global mentality? So it's almost like the mindsets are on either side of the road, just driving past each other, right?
Yes, correctly. I think that there is a misunderstanding because um, many of these recruiting professionals, Doreen, they have lived their whole lives in one place.
Yeah.
They haven't navigate their lives in a framework of global complexity. And and
Yes.
and don't get me wrong, this is not about we immigrants or expats trying to look superior or better. No, it's just that our lives drove to that path where we need to navigate ambiguity and adaptability and agility. So when you encounter recruiting staff that has seen the hiring process and the talent from a very narrow linear
Perspective.
perspective,
Mm.
many women like you, like me, like the ones that commented on the article, are left out because we do not fit into that
Fit.
box. We do not fit. We are not, our careers and our lives are not linear. We
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
worked across industries. We have developed different disciplines. We have reinvented ourselves intentionally, always following a
Yes.
vocation. So
Yeah.
that is not seen and appreciated because there is no the background to be able to
Yeah.
see that yet. I believe that with conversation and with some changes that could happen.
With quite a bit of training. Yes, I agree. And it's not, like you said, it's not about the judgment of someone choosing to be and live a settled existence in one geographical location. It's more about us driving ourselves and each other, whether we're settlers or flyers, people who move or people who are grounded. I think, some people have the gift of wings, some people have the gift of roots. And we need to start, I think, communicating better with each other because both offer very viable and
Yes.
important ways of living. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I think that is so important during the way we start the conversation, because it
Yeah,
needs to be a conversation that is not about educating or preaching or being condescending. It must be
right.
a conversation that is more about bridges because we want to
Yes.
close the gap.
Yes, exactly. And how do we start to build that bridge? We can build it a little bit across the gap from our side.
Yes, yes, yes.
How do we encourage those people to move towards us?
Yes, I believe that there are different aspects. I believe that there is one that it goes more towards the conversation, the interactions, being curious about, asking questions about other people's experiences and people like us, and even through articles that the one that was written, just opening the space for people to ask, well, Flor, explain to me what is a nonlinear career. And then
Mm,
having the conversation where instead of explaining or telling someone, because I think that many of us do this, when they ask about our global lives, we start listing. Doreen, and you have done it when we were younger and we have heard it. We start listing all the countries where we have lived. And I always said, I'm not going to impact someone's mind and heart by listing all the places where I've been.
right, right.
Let's put geography aside and let's talk about what truly takes for a person, a woman,
Yeah,
to have that kind of life.
yeah,
And I think that creates part of the change because instead of talking about living in Germany or in Texas and then moving to New York and being a Venezuelan, if I talk about how I needed to
mm,
relearn the way I communicate,
yes, yeah,
if I
yeah,
talk about how I needed to relearn how to position myself in a
yeah,
workplace,
yeah.
that's different. You're talking about skills. So that's more tangible for them to see.
Right. And it's more like pulling the thread through the weft or the warp when you're weaving something. It's
Yes.
like, or like when you're writing a memoir, it's more like following the arc of the
Yes.
story and always tying back into so what I learned here and what I learned there. Yeah, that's a very good point. So you have been a lawyer, you've been a professor, you've been a consultant, and you do all these things with three kids and such great aplomb.
Mm,
I'm wondering, the world mostly sees this as confusion,
yeah.
but we look at it as capacity.
Mhm.
how else can we explain to people um, why we've learned to dance, we've learned to be flexible, we've learned to bend over backwards to do things. Let's admit it, we've had to be really uncomfortable. So I'm very curious, and do you have an example of that as a what am I trying to say? I'll cut this bit out. I'm
Mhm.
trying to ask you, um, how can we explain that this is not confusion, that this is actually ability, that this is skill, that this is intelligence in action? How do we do that?
Yeah. Um, the way I like to see it, especially, and Doreen, I'm gonna talk to you as I usually do with those leaders that I
Right,
develop or
right.
that I work with. Um, I always ask them to consider different questions than the ones that I are currently asking. And let me give you an example. Usually, when we are looking at leadership development or hiring someone for a leadership position, we always look at the resume of their career and we want to find linear progression, uh,
Yes.
development in one market,
Yeah.
usually familiarity with certain brands, either
Hmm.
university, companies
Yeah.
that the person has worked before. And then when we see a non-linear resume, our question is always, why does this resume doesn't fit here? What is
Yeah.
going on? This is
Yeah.
not linear.
Yeah.
I invite people to reframe their questions, to think about what capabilities is this career showing me? What are the
Yeah.
capabilities that this person, this woman, this individual who is applying for this job and has changed industries or disciplines because of changing geographic locations? What are the capabilities that this resume is showing me, and how those capabilities can lead and impact the organization that I'm leading?
Hmm.
I think that
Hmm.
is one of the things. The other one is that you mentioned something very beautiful when you talk about the memoirs. Is extracting, is pulling the thread,
Yeah.
common thread among all our stories. And I think, Doreen, that there is a misconception about the careers of expat women or immigrant women. There is a misconception that says that we have changed careers or paths several times unintentionally.
Yeah. No, never.
There is intention in everything we do.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if the moving to a country, we weren't expecting that move and we need to do it. Even when we arrive, we immediately look at our careers, we look at our situation, and we immediately find that common thread between the previous job,
Yep.
the next one, to make it work. So in my looking paper that I'm a lawyer, an educator, and a consultant, and the ring, people ask me, what are you? Which one is? I don't understand. I always said, all of them are related by one common thread. And the common thread is that I want to help to reorganize or redesign systems that truly honor humans with dignity.
Oh, nice. That's a good mission statement.
I mean, as a lawyer, I learned to interpret the
Yes.
structures.
Sure.
As an educator, Doreen, you know it yourself, you
Yes.
learn to see how people develop and grow.
Yes.
And as a consultant, I'm able to put both together.
Exactly. Joy. Joy. Right there.
Pure joy.
Pure joy. So you talked about in that article, you talked about the unspoken barriers, the accent, the immigrant, the woman, the expat, the age 45 plus, the non-Ivy League. Do you have a sense of which one might be costing you the most? Or is it just the general combination that flusters people?
I think, Doreen, that when we talk about AI and other applicant tracking systems that are more automatic, that don't involve individuals live analyzing applications, I think
Right.
that the ones about, the familiar university names, when they see the
Oh, okay.
universities from a foreign country, that is
Yes.
unfamiliar. I don't know anything
Yes.
about it. So
Yeah.
I just dismiss it.
Yes. Yeah.
That
That
one is
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it changes when you enter. If you are given the opportunity to go to the first interview, the second one, then that is when the accent plays a role, the age,
Yes,
the look,
sure, sure.
everything, because then it becomes, and usually I receive the same question that I told you. We see in your resume that you're a lawyer, a professor, a
Right.
consultant. So
What are you?
who are you? Who are you? Yeah.
So this pattern, we know that this pattern reveals lots and lots of details about professional global women. How does it feel, or how did it feel when you got so many great responses, heartfelt, globally linked, smart, intelligent responses to that article? What did that do for you?
I felt seen.
Mm,
I believe that we know deep inside that it's not about our worth, it's not lack of skills or capability.
mm.
But when you receive that amount of rejections, and I'm not
Oh,
the only one, many of those individuals who commented shared their stories as well. There is unavoidable to feel doubt about yourself.
sure, sure.
And when I saw the responses to the article, I felt that these individuals were relating to my story because it was their story too.
Yes, yeah.
So
And we
it's
share that. We share this. So I think this would be a very good initiative for all of us global women, especially the
yeah,
ones who are mid-career, to focus on that thread and on focus on exactly who they are and those super skills, those superpowers that they
yes.
built.
It's
So
about telling the story, Doreen. I think
yes,
how
and
tell
tell the story effectively. Yeah,
I, yes,
it's telling the story effectively, number one, in a way that ends up with a point, in a
yes.
way that drives your point home, in a way that really showcases you for the best,
Mhm,
but also delivers your value to
mhm.
the organization. That's really important. So what advice do you have for what advice would you give younger women, other women who are also out there experiencing this?
Yeah, I will say during the first part, and I have learned that the hard way myself, is to start putting together your story, and a story
Yes,
that truly speaks to those who are behind those hiring desks. I always said that we need to ignite change, but while
yeah,
we ignite that change and while we work on that, we need to parallel to be telling our stories.
absolutely.
And how we tell the stories is key. So I have this, Doreen, that I always use for myself, and I would like to leave this for your audience too. And is your story will be the difference between a hiring manager seeing your resume as a Forrest Gump resume or a
Mm,
Michelangelo resume.
mm,
And the difference is intentionality. Usually,
yeah.
when you see a nonlinear career as a hiring manager, you can assume that that person unintentionally had to change. And that is lack of clarity, is a liability. How we tell the story will tell others that we have a Michelangelo resume, meaning we have
Mm.
mastered everything that you see there. It was intentionally planned, even though it was in the middle of uncertainty. So I will say that that's the story is the key piece on all this.
Mastering your story and how we tell our stories.
Yes.
Excellent. Just in closing, I wonder if you could speak to something about cultural intelligence. How do we talk about both truths, our dual passports, our dual languages, maybe our dual education, and our multiple mobilities? Um, Do you have some comments about how we can do that in a way that both heals and connects? Because sometimes connection is not quite enough. In this very fast day and age, we click, we swipe, and we move on. But we need connection and a sense of something else, which I call healing.
Healing, yes, yes. Um, I believe that there are the two planes or two dimensions to the healing process. Doreen, one is the healing process that occurs within myself and with myself, how I care for myself. And if you have a spiritual practice or religious beliefs, that can also be one thing is how much we believe that we have dignity and that the systems need to be changed in order to open a space for women like us that are,
Yeah.
they have their dignity and they have their career. So I believe that
Yes.
there is that healing process in me, and I usually do it that with spiritual beliefs, exercising, and connecting. The other part is deeper understanding our stories and connecting through storytelling and connecting through meaningful. And I loved what you said, having an end goal. It's not just telling the story by telling it. It's what is your landing point?
Right. Why are
Learning
you
that.
telling it?
What are you
Why are
telling
we
it? What do
telling
you
this?
want me? Because I have gone to many networking events, and I recommend younger women and women our age to go to networking events, but to have a clear plan. What is your
Yeah.
story and what you going to
Yeah.
get out of it? Because I have gone to
Yeah.
many, and at the end, I ask people, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do for you? And usually the answer is not clear. So
Yeah.
clarity is
Yeah.
is is, is part of that healing process, because then you feel empowered. The more you tell your story and you see that the story clicks, then
Yes.
the more you feel like, okay, this is I'm down the right path and I'm gonna continue doing it.
Mm. I think also part of that storytelling relates to having hindsight in what happened to us before, and a foresight, which is usually given by the circumstances of the application or the situation, and knitting those together in a strong enough way that it provides dynamic insight that delivers to them what they're looking for.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, Doreen, that's what yeah. And we can go on with a list of practical things that, hiring managers could do and organizations can start implementing. And I know those are important. And I think that we will need to record another podcast to talk about those
Right.
practicalities and leadership, going from applicant tracking systems all the way to leadership development topics. But I think that the core message is um, believe truly believe that the systems need to be redesigned to be able
Yeah.
to embrace humans that are complex.
Yes, because we're becoming more complex all the time. Yeah.
We are, until now, Doreen, I feel that professionals like us have been considered the outliers.
Correct.
But in reality, right now, with the complexity that the world is facing, we are
Mm.
not outliers. We're data. We're telling you that we have the
Yeah.
capabilities that are needed for organizations to thrive in the future.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That is
And that
somehow you and I
uh,
talk about how moving from insights to
from
uncertainty.
hindsight to foresight, and then
Exactly.
getting that
Because it's
insight.
just thinking is we are not, if you see us as outliers, as anomalies, then you don't take us into consideration. But if you see this group of talented women or individuals that are immigrants or expats with the realities, and you see them as data points, and you see, wow, what can I learn from these careers? That's what you need in the future. That's going to position your
Exactly.
organization as thriving one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a fabulous note to end on. So, if someone is looking to connect with you, tell me, please, how can our listeners connect with you? And we will put all of this in the show notes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doreen. The main way that, and I will say, I don't know if it's even called social media channel, but I use it a lot, especially to connect around the topic of global complexity is LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn under the name Flor Breton Garcia. And there I can answer your inboxes, private messages, and always on. I always try to post weekly articles that provide tangible tools so people can also read them and feel that they are getting something useful out of the connection with me. But that is the best way for connecting.
Thank you, Flor. This has been a wonderful conversation. So listeners, look for Flor and her super articles on LinkedIn. And you heard it here on Nomadic Diaries. How would you like to say goodbye in all your languages? Or
I would
a
love to do
couple of them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would like to say auf Wiedersehen, and finally the language of my heart, hasta luego.
Ah, and I will say ma salama, sayonara, and hasta luego, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Bye bye.